Guys, if there's one thing you need to know about me, it's the fact that I love Ninja Turtles. As a kid, I loved the 90s animated TV show. I loved all 3 live-action movies. Yes, even that one.
Leo, high foot!
I remember watching this, I think, 2000s animated Turtles movie that really spoke to me. In retrospect, it maybe wasn't that good. And I even watched those Turtles movies with Megan Fox. Alright, I didn't like those, but I liked all the rest of them. And I was thinking to myself, why do I like the Ninja Turtles so much? What is it about the Ninja Turtles that speak to me on such a deeper level? And I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've been pondering it. And then it hit me that maybe I, myself, deep inside my soul, somewhere embedded in my DNA, that I am also a Ninja Turtle.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! Go Ninja, go Ninja, go!
Welcome back to Budster Brown, the only place for movies. Nowhere else. This is it. We're here. We've made it. And let me tell you guys, I'm very happy with this movie. But before I talk to you about it, please comment. Not even like, not even subscribe. Comment. Leave your thoughts with me. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Whether it's, hey, your videos suck, here's why, aka feedback. Your thoughts on the movie I'm reviewing. And I'm even happy to see the coveted. First, I even want to see that. However, while I appreciate any comments you guys would leave on my videos, I'm just glad that you're here watching, looking at my gorgeous face, and listening to my luscious, buttery voice. But with that, let's get on to Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Let me give you a brief, light summary. Not that there's a whole lot to unpack here, but the Ninja Turtles are outcasts. I know, shocking. They're kind of mistreated because they're mutant turtles, and you know, that doesn't go over well in the streets of New York City. However, after they meet a human April O'Neil and she grows a fondness to them, they believe that maybe they can get other human beings to like them. So, they embark on some hero work, taking on the supervillain known as Superfly, and learn life lessons about doing the right thing, self-discovery, and acceptance along the way. Sounds like a good time if you ask me. Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is a family movie. This is a great one to take your kids to, your little siblings, or just yourself. Anyone can easily enjoy this. There are a couple swears, but other than that, this is pretty much a great film to take the whole family. The biggest praise that I can give this movie by far is how they handle the turtles themselves. Overall, I really liked it, with a couple little things that just didn't quite work for me, but looking at the entire package, the turtles were handled really well. Nice and extra crispy. You see, I think a really important aspect with the Ninja Turtles is that you capture the youth. If you're making a Ninja Turtles movie, you need your turtles to feel like teenagers, like they're young. And I haven't really watched Ninja Turtles religiously. As I mentioned, the last time I really watched Ninja Turtles was the 90s animated show and the 90s live-action movies. They act like teenagers in those movies, but they act like teenagers from the 90s, which is different from teenagers right now. As someone who has a younger Gen Z hip brother who's going to high school, just finished up his sophomore year, I can testify for a fact that these turtles do feel like Gen Z teenagers, which is great, actually. I'm not even complaining. They use all of the slang that the kids use, for real, bussin', sus, riz, but they do it in a natural way, not like whatever cringe I just did. The writers did a great job working in everything to the turtles without it feeling like forced or unnatural. There's movies out there with high schoolers where you can just tell that these writers think this is what teenagers are like, but like they're not really like that. Like at all. I like how this movie actually did a great job capturing the teenage essence and imbuing them into these Ninja Turtles. And other than the youthful vigor of these turtles, I really liked the chemistry between all of them. They just feel like bros. They're always roasting each other, lifting each other up, working together in combo moves. Each of the turtles has a different dynamic with the other turtle. It's really fun, and going into that, all of the turtles feel distinct. which is important. You know, I like the 90s animated show, but I feel like one of its flaws, at least early on, is that the turtles don't feel super distinct from each other, other than one has a sai, other has nunchucks, then swords, and a staff. So I like that they've sort of made these turtles into their own distinct personalities, so that when they interact with each other, it doesn't feel like the same person interacting with the same person. You can tell which one of the turtles is talking to the other turtle. Not only because their voices are somewhat distinct, but they also just talk in a different way. And they have different interests and different things that they're into. And with that, I just think they pretty much nailed the turtles. And in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, that's like the one thing you need to get right, and this movie largely delivers. However, the turtles aren't the only thing they did a great job with. Superfly was a great villain. And I say he's a great villain because I grew up with Shredder. Shredder's always the big bad. You gotta have Shredder. Starting off a new animated Ninja Turtles movie without Shredder, I mean, that takes balls, guys. I had my doubts going into it, but I was extremely happy with the end result. But Superfly, played by Ice Cube, was a fantastic villain. He was also physically intimidating, which I know seems like, yeah, duh, but he's a fly, bro. How do you make a fly intimidating? And they did a great job of showing why it's so hard for the turtles to take him on. Not only does he just ooze this commanding presence, and I say commanding because he has a couple of underlings surrounding him, but he has an interesting point of view and shares a lot of the same issues that the turtles have themselves, but they're just going about different ways of achieving their goal. And I always like when superhero movies or just movies in general draw a dichotomy between hero and villain and showing what makes them similar. And there's a scene I like with him where he's pretty much just vibing with the turtles for a little bit because he thinks they're on the same side. They also draw some parallels between Superfly and Splinter. The interesting thing with Splinter in this, I think he's played by Jackie Chan, is that he's not the super old wise sage that we're used to seeing him as, and I might have preferred that, but at the same time, what they opted to do was go for a message about being overly controlling and giving him a character arc, which was interesting. I've never really seen Splinter have a big character arc before, and it worked. It was good. I liked it. As I mentioned, April O'Neil is in this movie, but she's not the April O'Neil I grew up with. She's a high school journalist in this movie, and I actually think they utilized her pretty well. Once again, they draw parallels between her and the turtles, adding that human connection that everyone has that struggle. Everyone wants to be desired, and some people have it easier than others, to be sure. But it's also really fun to watch her interact with the turtles. I think she has a lot of really funny lines, and it's good to just have a character that can bounce off the turtles that aren't the turtles. And I think she does a great job tying into the main theme, which seems to be the desire for acceptance and what people are willing to do to get to that level. And the movie makes a really important point that sometimes in your efforts to just be loved, it can kind of backfire if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Which I all think that in our lives we've done things that, not nefarious, but more selfish motivations, and the movie lets you know that you should do the right thing whether or not you're going to be accepted. Do the right thing when no one's looking. Do the right thing because it's the right thing. I think that's a great message for kids. I think adults can easily consume that, and even teenagers would probably like it. This movie just also has remarkable pacing. What I like about Ninja Turtles is it lets you know it don't need to be 2 hours. It could be an hour 30 and you'll be okay. There's a lot of things that happen in this movie as well, and the fact that they're able to fit so many characters into an hour and 35-minute runtime without it feeling rushed was amazing to me. The sequences themselves don't ever feel too long or too short, and then the movie itself doesn't feel too long or too short, and it hits that sweet spot where everything felt tight, compact, and well thought out. That's perfect. Now, while I would like to just keep prattling on and on and on about all of the positives that this movie offered me personally, you got a couple grapes that I need to get out of the way real quick. The turtles overall are great, but I did say there was an asterisk there. This might seem like a small problem, and maybe some of you won't care, but Donatello's voice is hot booty cheeks. And the genius of these casting directors, they decided to make Donatello sound like he was literally 10 years old, and it is so distracting. When watching the movie, I said that Leonardo sounded like Max from like the Goofy movie, which I thought was a pretty good fit for his character, to be honest. Like, I had no complaints about that. But Donatello sounds like the child version of Max. It feels like the rest of the turtles, they're multiple grade levels in like a scholastic sense above Donatello. Like every time he talks, I'm like, who's this random child? And I'm like, oh, it's him. It's Donatello, right? Oh, my bad, bro. And I think that's sad because I think Donatello has some of my favorite lines and roasts to all of the other turtles. But every time he'd roast Leonardo or whatever, I'd be like, why don't the other turtles be like, shut up, you sound like you're 5. And he like goes and cries in the corner or something. I don't know. I mean, bully him back. I'm also a little bit mixed on the animation itself. I really like the style, the backgrounds, the vibe. It's super expressive and vibrant, but it's also got like a little bit of a muted flavor to it to match like the grungy vibe of Ninja Turtles New York City. But my real issue with it is just the character models. I feel that the Turtles character models are too stubby. I feel that the Humans character models are too stubby. When they first introduced April O'Neil, I was like, oh, so she's like a 13-year-old or 12-year-old because she's so short. But then as you watch it, you realize, oh no, she's like a high schooler in her sophomore year. And then you look at all of the adults and you realize that they're all short. And then one last thing. I know this all is a stylistical choice. I just didn't necessarily agree with it. They did this thing with the Humans and they just look kind of hideous. April O'Neil doesn't look hideous. She has a pretty face and there's some people that look fine. The bad guys, they just make look like ridiculously hideous for, I'm assuming, the effect of making them look nefarious, but it was just more distracting than anything. I also just thought the turtles looked a little bit goofy. Leonardo and Raphael looked more or less fine, but for whatever reason, Michelangelo and especially Donatello just looked really small and skinny, and I was less into that. And there's a couple of creative sequences that I really like where it's almost like imaginary Donatello saying, hey, this is a cool plan, and they like sketch it out in like this fun way, and it shows like the correct proportions of what the Ninja Turtles usually look like. And all I thought to myself was that, why aren't there proportions like that in the actual movie? And my last little complaint, the climax felt a little bit stock, generic. Like, Superfly is a great villain. I've already established this. But he kind of, at some point, devolves into a very, I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say generic superhero movie ending battle sequence. You know what I'm talking about? And it's fun because you get a bunch of different people teaming up to stop him, and they do some interesting things with the themes that I've already talked about. But like the actual set piece itself felt just a little bit undercooked. But that's just the final battle itself. Like the actual end where you get your resolution to all of the conflict was super well done. I would say dang near perfect. But yeah, the Ninja Turtle Mutant Mayhem movie, animated, whatever, just I loved it. It had really expressive and vibrant animation, even though sometimes I just, didn't like the models. The writing was super funny. The turtles had great chemistry with each other, and their banter back and forth is by far the best part of the movie. Superfly is a really entertaining villain, and I also felt the movie had a lot of great messages that are especially applicable to teens and kids, but even adults can appreciate what the film has to offer. If you're a Ninja Turtle fan, I don't even need to tell you to watch this movie. Cowabunga, baby. Go see it! Unless you hate the Ninja Turtles, in which case, why? You're either a loser or a woman.